Hello. I'm back. I'm gonna try to get on here once a week. We'll see how that goes. My name is Michelle. I'm 49, soon to be 50 in just a few days. And I wanted to talk about my journey with Rent by the Room. So if you saw my first video, it kind of went over my real estate journey, I guess. And this one is going to talk more so about I guess what got me into Rent by the Room. So I had been doing Section 8 for, I guess, 16, about 16, 15, 16 years. And once I went part-time, instead of having a property manager, I decided that I could take it over. Since I had more free time, I also was trying to kind of supplement my income. So I wanted to be more hands-on. So as a result of that, I had a Section 8 tenant that I picked. And unfortunately, I did all the rookie mistakes. I didn't screen the person. I was just so happy to get somebody in that house because I knew Section 8 would pay me. So I was so proud of myself because I had never done this before, because I flew from where I lived to my hometown, and all in the course of a weekend, I found a tenant. Hindsight's 2020. It would have been better to take a little longer to find somebody and probably screen them, but that's okay. So fast forward to, I feel like I'm sitting so close. Okay. So fast forward to maybe September, October. My contractor at the time, who was helping me with resolve the lead issue at my grandmother's house, I had mentioned, on my next house, I would love to do Rent by the Room, because I had been watching some videos and people were just saying how, Rent by the Room was so profitable and yada, yada, yada. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to try it. So my contractor was like, well, technically you could do it with this house. And I was like, you think? And he was like, definitely. So I decided to look into that a little bit more. The more I researched it, the more I realized I feel like I should get my little beverage. I love this time of year, y'all, because I have cranberry ginger ale. Love it. Anyway, so I started researching and I found that the idea of Rent by the Room really intrigued me. First of all, the biggest plus was that all my money would not be connected to one person, because at that point, July, August, the house had been empty for like 5-6 months. And I do have a mortgage on the house. It's a very small one. It's like $350. But if you're working part-time, $350 is a lot. That's a lot of, I don't have that much margin in my part-time income. So I really did not want all my money connected to one person. So I was like, perfect, I'm gonna try Rent by the Room. I ended up using a software called Avail. This is not sponsored, but I absolutely love Avail. If you're watching and you're like a landlord or something, I'll definitely leave some information in the description, because it's really helped me streamline my business. So I want to say I sold my house in October of 2023, which was last year, with the intention of doing Rent by the Room at this point. So I use Wayfair for my furniture, and I really just kept it very, 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 very simple, because I had done all my research, and a lot of the people who currently do Rent by the Room said, aesthetically, you want it to look nice, but you don't want the furniture in the common area to be too comfortable, because you don't want tenants kind of hanging out in the common areas, because then that just creates problems. Because, if you go to bed early, I stay up late, I have company, we're all in the living room, it's just a mess. So what I chose to do is I didn't put any furniture in the living room at all. And hopefully what I'll be able to do is maybe plug some pictures in of what the space looks like if you're curious. But I didn't put any furniture in the living room. I just had some little inspirational signs on top of the mantle. In the dining room, I just have a 4-seater kind of table / bench. In the kitchen, I have a stove and a refrigerator. And what I did was I put little stickers on each shelf in the refrigerator, so that each tenant could have their own shelf. And I got that idea from watching all these videos, because they were saying, as much as you can streamline, the better, because your whole goal with Rent by the Room is you are trying to decrease the amount of conflict between tenants, because for the most part, these are random people. And so you want to try to have some processes in place. The other thing about the labeling of like the cabinets, because in the living room, in the dining room rather, it just so happened that there's like 3 cabinets on a wall. And I put little stickers, like, you know, those little stickers you use for your mailbox numbers. I put those on there. So each tenant kind of can use that as their own little like pantry. But part of the reason in doing that was that when people leave, because I have a cleaning person come in once a month, which I have not been that good about, but in my mind, that's what I was going to do every month. That way, when they come in, it's easy to clean out people's stuff because you know, oh, this person moved out, I can clear out this. So I got the furniture from Wayfair in the bathroom, very simple, you know, just a shower curtain, shower mat. And in the bedrooms, I did a full-size bed because the 2 of the rooms are really kind of tiny. So I did a full-size bed on a frame, no headboard, a 3-drawer organizer, a little lamp that what goes on top of the 3-drawer organizer, and it has a little USB port so you can charge your phone. And I'm trying to think, is there anything else in there? Oh, a power strip. And I put a power strip in there. So, and the locks are all digital. I used, what is the name of it? UTech, which I'm not going to lie, I'm not impressed at all because these locks have already start cutting up and it hasn't even been a year. But anyway, that's what I got. And the reason why, I think the problem with those locks was I got a little too fancy because they can do a lot. So you can do, you know, you can access it through an app. You can do a key. You can do a code. It even has like the hotel key type thing. Like it almost looks like a little credit card you hold up. You can do it that way. And I think maybe because the locks just have so much going on, that it just increases the chances of something going wrong. Because now my front door lock, I haven't had any issues with, and that was installed by ADT, and it's a, I think it's quick set. So I would recommend that one over the UTech because I'm not impressed with those at all. So anyway, what I ended up doing was I have 3 bedrooms, and one of the rooms is like almost double the size of the other 2. So initially, when I was setting the pricing for this, because I had been hearing, you know, oh my goodness, you can make so much money and yada, yada. Well, first of all, that is heavily connected to the area where the house is. So in my case, because the house is, you know, kind of in a low income neighborhood. So it's not like I can charge like premium rents, like I'm not near a hospital or anything like that. Also, my goal was I was thinking that my initial tenants, like who I thought I'd be serving, were people who like maybe had fallen on hard times as a result of COVID and you just needed like a couple months to get yourself together. But actually, that's not who I ended up serving. I actually ended up serving people who I think are just trying to save money, which is completely fine. So the process that I used is I use Avail. And the cool thing about Avail is that it will list your property on like 15 or 16 different websites. The cool thing about Avail is that not only will it list the property, they can schedule open houses. They can also, there's a way to do a lease on there. They can do their payments through there. So it's really a nice streamlining process. So I posted the rooms on there, but I also posted them on Craigslist. So I used those too. So my first tenant was a guy, and I really tried to think, you know, how can I keep the confusion down? And I decided that I would start off everybody on a 3-month lease. That way, if there's any issues, then, you know, the person technically is only there for 3 months. And also to the tenants, you know, benefit too, like maybe they'll get there and maybe, you know, they don't like the neighborhood or maybe they don't like the layout of the house or, you know, who knows. So I just felt like, let's do this to, you know, make it simpler. So my first person, and how I ended up doing these, as I told you, I love TaskRabbit. So I found a girl to do the open houses for me. And what I was doing is I was scheduling open houses for like the second Saturday of the month. So my first tenant moved in December of 2023. Appeared to be a decent person. Unfortunately, he or one of his visitors broke the door. to his bedroom. Now, I don't have any proof that this is what happened, but this is what I think happened. The cool thing about digital locks is, you can tell when people are unlocking and locking. And the super duper cool thing about the front door is you can tell which side of the door the person is on when they're unlocking it, because I'm the only person that has a key. So what that means is if you are a tenant, you can only get through the front door using your code. However, if you're on the inside of the house, when you lock the door, by just turning it, it registers that. So it'll say like manual lock or, digital unlock, things like that. So anyway, what I think happened is that this person had company and the company got locked out of the bedroom door, because remember I told you I had those U-Tech locks, and the way those locks work is they lock like in 30 seconds. So if you don't know that and you close the door, then you're going to be locked out unless you know the code. So what I think happened is he had company, he left for work, the person got locked out. I told you the house is almost 100 years old. I don't know when my grandmother updated the doors, if she ever updated the bedroom doors. So it's very easy to just push the panel in and reach your hand in and pull the lever down. But in doing that, of course, it damaged the door. So I had him get a police report. The police report was not very helpful at all, because I really was trying to show that like nobody broke into the house, sir. Especially since it's 3 bedrooms. His bedroom was like in the middle. Like how would a intruder know that somebody was in that one and opposed to the other 2 bedrooms? Because that's not the first bedroom you hit when you come up the steps. It's actually the bigger one. But anyway, I felt like once he moved out, I really wanted to charge him for the door. But I said, you know what? I did not want to make the other people feel unsafe in the house if he, tried to retaliate or anything like that. So I just ate the cost. And I think it was like $300, and I just ate the cost. So like I said, I start everybody off on a 3-month lease. Then what I do is I have somebody come in 30 days before their first lease expires. And they're coming to inspect the room primarily for smoke. Does it smell like smoking of any sort, because there's no smoking in the house. So as long as you haven't trashed your room and, it doesn't smell like smoke, you get offered another lease. Now, for your renewal, you have a couple options. You could do 3 months, you could do 6 months, or you could do 9 months. And so that guy, he did not renew after 3 months. And he actually wasn't a bad tenant at all, because he kind of worked interesting hours. And I think he was like, I think he had been divorced or something. He was trying to just build up his money again. So he didn't renew, partly I think because he wanted to be a little closer to his job. So that meant in January, I had 2 rooms open, because I had a lady move into one of the other smaller rooms, and then I still had the big room open. And at the time when I set the rent prices, I was trying to get $1,200, because that's what I was getting with Section 8. Now, what I did not anticipate was that with Section 8, the only thing that I was responsible for was the water, because in my hometown, the water is connected to the house. So I found out the hard way with my previous tenant that if you don't pay the water bill, or you don't somehow have a way to keep up with is the tenant paying, then you'll get stuck with the water bill. So I got stuck with like a $600 water bill. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. I'll just pay the water. Well, in this case, though, when I set the rent for $1,200, which was, what I was doing is I had the 2 small rooms technically they were set at $400 a piece, and then the bigger room was like $600 a piece. However, I offered like this rent incentive, which is if you paid by the month and not the week, you could save $100. Okay, I know it's like a gold mine. I'm sure that's why like the current tenants aren't leaving. But anyway, so at first the rent was really $300 for those 2 smaller rooms, because if you pay by the month, you're paying $300, and I'm covering all utilities, plus a maid service once a month, plus free Wi-Fi. So, I mean, it is really a sweet deal. Well, unfortunately, the utilities, I didn't anticipate how high they were going to be. I also didn't factor in like the cost of the maid and the lawn care. So it's all these little expenses that really eat into that 1,200 on a good month. And that's when all 3 rooms are rented. So like if all 3 are rented, I mean, I may have been profiting $200 to $300 a month. So I was like, oh, I got to do something a little differently. So what I did was I raised the rent to $450 for the smaller rooms, and then I think, is it $550 for the bigger room. And I think that's going to work out a little better. It really just kicked in this month. And the reason why it took so long to kick in is because the lady who moved in January, when she passed her 3-month inspection, she renewed for 9 months. So that meant, her lease didn't kind of, what would that be? I guess expire until October. So I didn't want to, charge it, make it go up in the middle. So I just left it at that. So right now I have 3 ladies in the house. One's actually a travel nurse, which it sounds great to have a travel nurse, but because again, I'm new to this world of real estate, it's actually been a bit of pain in my butt. And the reason why is because when you're a travel nurse, once you, at least this is my experience, once you finish your initial contract with the hospital, it's on a month-to-month thing. And so you're not finding out if you need that space like until the middle of the current month. And so that's kind of wreaking havoc in the sense of, so far, I mean, I know like she's been renewing, but I haven't really worked out a system for like how I will do this in the future if I ever rent to another travel nurse, because like I really want to be able to list a room knowing that someone's going to move out. And right now, like I don't really have that window. It's kind of like a 2-week turnover. So I'll have to kind of work that out. But anyway, right now I have all 3 rooms rented. They're all rented to like women over 40. So they're kind of in the same station of life. So, it's not like somebody's like partying or, things like that. So it's worked out. My logic with the lease, the length of the lease, was just so that by the time you sign a year lease, if you would like to, which is what one of my tenants just did, you kind of know the neighborhood, the tenants, you kind of see me as a landlord. So I think that works out. And then my last tenant who just moved in, I think she moved in June or July, she passed her 3-month inspection. And so she renewed for 9 months. So that's good. So right now I have 2 rooms that I won't have to worry about re-renting for, gosh, I think at the earliest, like next May or June. So that's perfect. And then I have that 1 room with the travel nurse, which is kind of like in limbo. Like I know she'll be there for November, but I don't know if she'll be there after November. But again, the pros are that, especially as a new landlord, it has really helped me kind of get some processes and systems in place, because when you're managing 3 different people and they're on 3 different lease terms, it can get a little hectic. I can't say I have it completely worked out, but I'm definitely getting better. The other thing is I think it helped me learn how to put some things in the lease that maybe before I wouldn't have, because with Section 8, I didn't even add an additional lease. Like I just kept it at whatever, their lease was. But now when I fix up the duplex and re-rent, I'll definitely be using this rent by the room lease and just change the wording on some of the stuff. Like for instance, with rent by the room, I have added a clause in my lease talking about like if you're incarcerated or if you die, like what happens to your belongings. And I know it sounds very morbid, but you have to plan for those kind of things. So in my case, I'm really just barely breaking even. However, it's helped because since I work part-time, I don't have to kind of dip into my pocket to cover a lot of the expenses in the house, because I've tried to build up some reserves for like when it is completely rented. I do want to get better about the monthly house cleaning. The problem with that is I was trying to use TaskRabbit. I wouldn't recommend TaskRabbit for cleaning projects. And the reason why is because everybody cleans differently. And then some people do it a little faster. Some people do it a little slower. Well, you're paying by the hour. And then like the price is just fluctuating way too much. But as far as like rent by the room, open houses and stuff, it's perfect. I actually found someone who comes over and he changes the lock, the batteries and the digital locks. So it's been really helpful with like that kind of thing. I've tried to change the locks like every quarter. And what I did, because I tried to be extremely proactive, I put a lock box. I use TaskRabbit for this too. I had a guy, because the front porch is like brick. So he attached a lock box to like the porch, and so that way I have all the keys in there. So if for some reason, you know, the lock stopped working, I could call someone, I could give them the lockbox code, they could go in and open the doors. What I actually ended up having to do, I want to say about 2 months ago, is I actually had to end up giving a key to the tenants just for their bedrooms, because two of the locks started acting funny. And I felt horrible because one of them was the tenant who had just moved in, and she had like a job interview, and I felt absolutely horrible. So there is something in the lease that says if there's any issues with the digital lock, you get a $25 rent credit, which is also my late fee. And no, it's not like $25 a day. It's literally just $25, period. And I know that, you know, for people in the world of real estate, probably some of my fees are pretty low. But again, I'm just trying to keep stuff simple. And I feel like if we did it by the day, now I have to keep up with that. And then if you can't pay, then you know what happens. So 25 works for me. So right now, the tenants all have a key to their bedroom. Nobody has a key to the front door except me, because that lock has been fine. So I like this system. And I think moving forward, I'm not even updating those locks. I called UTech. Well, actually, I couldn't even talk to someone. It was like a ticket I submitted online. So we were really just chatting back and forth, but they wouldn't give me a credit towards different locks. They were just going to give me the exact same locks, which I'm like, well, I don't want these, because if this batch went bad, then that means in another year I'd be replacing them. So right now the tenants just use the key to get in the room, which, you know, works for me. And then what I think I'll have to do is figure out what will happen when they move out. I'll probably have to have the girl who does my open houses like go meet the tenant so she can pick up the key, and that way she could give it to the next person who moves in. So some of the cons with rent by the room is, you know, it is a crapshoot on how well the tenants are going to get along. Knock on wood, I have not had any issues. I do use Avail for the application process, and it does have a background check, a credit check, and like a sex offenders check. I'm really not concerned about people's credit as much because, you know, I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I know, you know, over this real estate journey, you know, there's been times when my poor credit score was like in the 400s. Now it's in the 600s. So I don't really hold that against people. But people do need to have been employed for at least a year, and you need to make 2 times the monthly rent, and you cannot have a criminal record. And the reason why is because since I'm mixing people, I just want everyone to feel safe. And so I don't want to accept people who may have, you know, a felony for, you know, something, and then you're in the house with someone who's never been arrested. Now, if like it just worked out that I had 3 applicants and 3 rooms were empty and they all were trying to like get themselves together and they had a record, I wouldn't have any problem with that. I just don't want to mix people who kind of, you know, have a criminal record with people who don't, because I just feel like, I don't know. I just think it's easier to just keep it separate. The other part is that overall, the people have been wonderful. You know, Avail sends reminders. One of my tenants kind of had a hard time with the Avail software as far as paying. So she pays me via Cash App, but then I can update it as like an offline payment and still keep a record of it in Avail. So that has worked out wonderfully. The only drawback, at least in my case, is that I could be making way, way, way more money if I switch this house back to Section 8. However, I've decided that I'm not going to do that until I finish paying this house off. Right now, I have like a $30,000 mortgage left. So, I mean, the rent or the mortgage is like $350 a month. So it's not horrible. But again, I don't want to switch that house back until, definitely not until I have at least one of the sides of the duplex up and running. But at this point, I think it's fine. Now, if at some point that house is ever completely empty again, I would definitely switch it back to rent to Section 8. But for now, while there's still people in it, then I don't want to disrupt, people's lives and do that just to make a couple extra dollars. So I'll just wait. So would I recommend rent by the room? I think it depends on your market, because again, my primary goal really was just not to have all my money connected to one person. So I have accomplished that goal. So in any given month, as long as there's at least one person in the house, I can at least cover the mortgage on the house. And then even if I had to dip into like my reserves for the utilities, they're not horrible, but luckily, right now I haven't had to do that because it's fully rented. As far as like making money from this, you want to make sure you're in an area that like maybe is near college students, or like a hospital, or if you're just in a city where the rents are really high and like you could charge $1,000 a room and people would pay it, because that would still be cheaper than, somewhere else. And I get that I probably could ask for a little bit more, but at this point, I'm just, going to leave it at the 450 for the smaller rooms and the 550 for the bigger room. And that's just working for me. So I hope this has helped you if you're kind of trying to decide about doing rent by the room. I do love it. Now, I'm not going to lie though. I mean, as I keep looking at those Section 8 payment schedules, I'm like, oh my gosh, because like I told you, like I could probably be netting close to $1,000 if I did Section 8 again, because of course with Section 8, I wouldn't have the type of expenses that I have with rent by the room, because with Section 8, I'd only be responsible for the water and possibly like free Wi-Fi, just because I'll probably do ADT again with the quick set lock, because that's been amazing and I haven't had any issues with that. But anyway, if you have any questions or anything about rent by the room, feel free to, leave a comment and I'll definitely answer it. I'll also put the link to Avail, so that if you are currently a landlord, like a small landlord like me, and you're looking for a property management software, and it's very reasonable too. Like it's like $7 per property. So of course, because I'm doing the rent by the room, but each one is kind of showing up as a property, it's like $21 a month. So you can't beat that. And how I labeled the doors is I use the same stickers from like you would use on a mailbox. So we have room 1, room 2, room 3. And that's also how the leases are set up. So it has the address and then it has like room 1, room 2, room 3. I think that's how the tenants have also had their mail come, because it's just one central mailbox and I guess they just divide it up. The other thing that I forgot to mention was that check your local city's ordinance on how many unrelated people you can have in a house before you have to list it as a boarding house, because that was a big deal. So that's why I don't rent the couples, because in my hometown, you can have up to 3 people in a house that aren't related and it's still considered, residential. Whereas if I throw in one more person, then that would bump it up to a boarding house. And there's nothing wrong with, doing it as a boarding house, because if I, finish the basement and rent that out, then I would have to list it that way. But at least for right now, I can just do it this way, because of course I'm staying within the ordinances of the city. So again, I hope you've enjoyed this. And what else? I think that's it. I don't think I have any other little tips and tricks. But yeah, if you're interested in, if you have any questions about rent by the room, feel free to just put them in the chat and I'll try to answer. I haven't been doing it that long. Literally, it'll be a year in December. But I don't have any complaints. It's really worked out great. So as always, be grateful. Bye-bye.